Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, wherever you happen to be around the planet. Welcome to the Wednesday webcast with Mike. We started doing this a few months ago now when COVID-19 first began and people were scrambling to make sensible decisions for their businesses and for their personal lives as well, trying to work out what they should back off from, what they needed to lean into, really crisis management mode. So we started off putting out some content to help people navigate that territory. And as things are moving and progressing, we're gradually looking more towards recovery and insights into leadership, business, life in general. So welcome to the call wherever you're listening from. My guest today is Bonnie Davies. I've known Bonnie for a number of years now, and she's a person I really enjoy spending time with. She's the CEO and Creative Director of Gelo, a company she founded here in Perth, which exists to unboring things. Gelo broadly sits in the entertainment industry, and Bonnie's an award-winning producer and writer and performer of comedy, and is responsible for the character Famous Sharon, who's very famous for absolutely nothing at all. Bonnie, it's a delight to have you with us. Welcome.
Thanks, Mike. It's really good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about Gelo and how it came to be. I know when you were starting the business, there were a lot of people saying, why would you start an entertainment company in Perth? Why not go to Sydney or Melbourne? Tell us a bit about your history and how you brought the business into being.
Yeah, well, I mean, they weren't even saying, why are you starting a company? They were just saying, why are you here? Why would you stay?
Yeah.
Similar to now, I think there's a good 5 to 10 year period where every time someone moved to Perth, almost still the first thing we say to them is, why did you move here? we grew here. This is why we're here. Why did you come here? So there was definitely a trajectory in comedy of you become professional or you get good enough to go to Melbourne and Sydney, and then you do a Melbourne Comedy Festival show, you try and get a Best Newcomer nomination, or you try and get a job as a radio host or a TV host or star, because that will subsidise the live stand-up circuit. Doesn't make you a lot of money until you have a lot of profile. Then you get big audience numbers. So then you get on TV, radio, then you get big audience numbers, and then, it all kind of rolls in. But I just kept seeing like stacks of my comedy colleagues just leave. Like every 3 to 4 years, there'd be a big exodus. There's actually an award called Naughty Word Off to Melbourne. I'll say it's called it's an official award that has money attached. Every year, someone in WA wins the Get Lost to Melbourne award.
Yeah.
And that's an indicator of where the industry was at. The last 4 or 5 people that have won the Get Lost to Melbourne award in the last couple of years haven't actually moved to Melbourne.
Right.
Because I think the landscape has shifted now, and really you can be funny anywhere, so you can kind of make it work, and you can be funny in many forms as well. So it doesn't have to just be TV or radio. There's so many other things you can do now. So I'm glad I stayed. Yeah. So I guess my background is actually in events management, and I quit that career to become a comedian, because I tried it once and then I was like, what is this? I'll give it a crack, and then did well enough to become a professional comedian, but then had the questions of why are you here, moved to Sydney or Melbourne, and I thought, why would I try and move there if I can take the world? Why not move to LA or just do it from here? Like, I have a great life here. I love my family. And I just thought, what would Perth look like if everyone didn't leave? Because, Tim Minchin, Dave Hughes, Rover McManus all had careers here. What if they still had careers here? That would be amazing. And so because I had a background in events management, I can now combine the two together. So our foundation is comedy, but actually that's just a foundation. We actually don't use the word comedy when we talk to people about Gelo, because it's more of a tool or a foundation, but it's not, if I say the word comedy, people think we're going to give them Dave Hughes. Like, oh, great, Dave, yeah, get him in. Carl Barron, yeah, love him. But actually, comedy is a useful tool for us, because when you do stand-up, when you do comedy, you do or you die. Like, we actually are very dramatic about comedy on stage. If we don't do well, we say we died. Like, we died.
Yeah.
Because you're either effective or ineffective, and the audience don't lie. You can't fake laugh your way through a show, and no one wants to go and pay to see that again. So we have to be funny, we have to be effective, and that's what we've translated into Gelo, is that we have to unboring things for people. And so we want to change the way that you engage, is essentially all the work that we do.
Yeah, lovely. So event businesses that's a sector that's taken an absolute beating during COVID. Many companies have actually fallen by the wayside in this time, and there's certainly lots of people really struggling. How have you reinvented yourself during this period?
It's a combination of hard work and luck, because we're lucky that we're in a area of the industry that we can pivot to. I don't really know how you pivot a stadium of 30,000 people to some things are special because that's what they are. But we had some money put aside, so that was hard work. And then we lost everything overnight. Like, we lost all of our business. Friday, I think it was announced that events were getting scrapped. And by Monday, all our clients had, everything was gone. And that was pretty stressful. We had to fire all of our staff, and then we rehired them. Thank you, JobKeeper. But essentially, our biggest clients still had a need to unboring things. They just had to do orientations online or training online, or we actually did secure a Eurovision style awards hosting gig for famous Sharon, my character, where she was going to host an awards ceremony online. But now that all the events are coming back up, they've just converted that to a live event. So now she'll be hosting it in real life instead. But, so it was, they were trying to solve the problem still. How do we still have an awards night? How do we still do training? How do we still have orientations? Help us. But that meant that we weren't built to deliver on the scale they were wanting for online world. So we had to kind of rebuild the company again, and repair ourselves as well, because we've been through quite a hard time.
So you've mentioned your sort of fundamental purpose for Gelo being to unboring things a few times through there. It seems to be that boring and business often go hand in hand. It's not always true, but it often is, and especially when you get into territory like training and inductions and legal contracts and all of that sort of stuff. People just seem to lock themselves down to the most boring version of something that they can think of. I ran into a really classic example of this just this week. A friend of mine was describing an 8-hour online induction that a company has, and apparently it breaks regularly when you're partway through it, and you kind of have to restart, and the content of it is mind-numbing as well. So it's a sort of 8 hours of torment that people line up for. They have to do it because it's a company requirement for a whole heap of reasons, some of which are legally mandated, but it's just painful for everybody that has to endure it. So what kinds of things do you unboring, and what are your thoughts about the stuff that is typically boring? Does it have to be? And yeah, we'll start there.
Well, it's an interesting sentence. Start with, typically unboring, does it have to be? And usually when it has to be is when it gets boring. Like, it's the legally mandatory, like when we have to do something, or we feel we have to do something, we tend to just do it because we'll just get it done. But then when we start just doing things, we stop thinking about why we're doing them. Are they effective? How can we use what we have to make this effective or engaging? And I think I'm a big fan of using what you have as well. You might not be able to hire. I think you were going to ask me as well. You have asked me in the past, can other people unboring things? Absolutely. Like, we don't own the trademark on unboring. I mean, we'll own the trademark on the name, but not the concept of making things effective or engaging or unboring. Like, there's lots of things that make things unboring, and you can do it yourself as well. But actually, usually it's when things have to be done, meetings, OH&S signs. Or why are they so boring? Like risk management plans, who reads them? You make them for the insurer. There's a lot of great information. When I used to run events, we'd have this big risk management plan that I knew no one would read. So we would make little flashcards of the important stuff. And it wasn't boring, it was easy and it was effective. And you can put jokes on those things and it doesn't take away the mandatory legality of it. It makes it more, people are more likely to read it and have a good time. It's like the tiny writing on websites. A copywriter told me once, was like, why do people think that has to be boring? It's because it's the legal bit. You know, make sure you sign up to this newsletter and we will look after your privacy. Have fun with it. Like, then people will read all the important things because they want to see what you've said. How have you made it you?
Yeah, nice. So when you are approached by a company, you've worked with a number of education, government and private sector companies to unboring various things in their world. What's your general approach to it?
Usually we ask them why. Often people have an idea of, a friend of mine, another copywriter, they must be good at nailing things. She says, I won't give you what you want, I'll give you what you need. And so we usually try and find out what they actually need. What is the problem they're trying to solve? Making sure that we have a solution for them or options, or we refer them on to people. But for example, the other day I had someone call me and say, I need a video. I need a 15-minute video. I need it to be about this topic. And it's going to, it needs to be a 15-minute video about this thing. And I was like, okay, right. So where is it going? Why is it 15 minutes? What are you trying to, what's the call to action you want? What impact do you want? Why are we even doing this? I think we often do things because we feel like we have to do them. The first thing we do with a client or someone is work out, do you have to do this? Do you? Like, what are you really trying to get out of it?
So if you're clear about purpose, that then can liberate different options in terms of
and it
how you might approach
everything
it.
as well. Yeah. So for example, we did have a company that used Famous Sharon to host a big event. And, if we didn't talk about the why do you have to do this bit at the beginning, we would have missed a really important bit of information, which was we talked about, why are you having this event? What are you doing? What do you want Sharon to do? She was the MC. We could have just rocked up, done the MCing and left, but we want it to be boring. We want it to be effective. So we have to figure out why they're doing it. Talk to them about that. And it turned out that there had been a lot of unrest in the company, that a number of companies had merged to create this new company. So there was a lot of distrust in the organization, a lot of frustration. So this whole event was to bring everyone together to make sure that they felt valued and they felt celebrated, and that it was kind of a reset, and also acknowledging, hey, it hasn't been perfect. It's been tough. So let's have a drink and a party and then let's move forward. And so that was super useful. That informed how Famous Sharon introduced the night. You have to acknowledge the truth in the room or people instantly disengage with you. As soon as you're not genuine, it becomes boring to them. They're like, yeah, whatever, you're not talking to me, I don't care. And luckily the CEO was on the same page. So Sharon set the stage for him, saying it's been hard, acknowledging that but you're all fabulous, but she roved with them. It was very hard roving at the beginning because they didn't want to be there. A lot of them were angry. They were kind of, give me my free drink and I'm just going to not have a good time. It was almost a point they were making by not having fun. Super hard to rove in that environment. But, with Famous Sharon, I'll start her. I have a process with her. We start with the people that are already interested in her, have fun with them, and then loosen up the crowd. By the end of the night, everyone was wearing Famous Sharon's outfits. They were karaokeing on the stage. One guy came up to me and said, I didn't want to have a good time, but I had a good time. And then took off a boa and threw it on the stage and walked out. That was amazing. But if I didn't start with the why do you have to do this? What is your purpose? Why is this effective? It turns a simple job into a lot more of a great experience for everyone. Because otherwise, if Sharon had just delivered the notes that were given to her and we hadn't made that content effective, people would have switched off, they would have ignored her, and it wouldn't have been a great time.
So that sort of loops back a little bit to what you were saying at the beginning about comedians have to be effective or they die on stage. No one buys tickets. This seems to be part of the same skill set, is kind of getting into some layer of fundamental connection for what you're there for. How challenging is it to bridge the gap between an audience, a business audience in particular, I'm thinking here? So comedy, you know, people turn up, they expect you to make them laugh, and then to some degree it comes down to an interaction between the comedian and the audience, where if I like your humor and feel engaged with you in the room, then I'll laugh. But I'm there to laugh and you're there to make me laugh. That's a really different proposition to a business case for unboring something, where usually people would be at least obliquely looking for a bottom line impact or a effectiveness impact or a efficiency impact or something like that.
Oh, absolutely.
How do you build that bridge to being able to get into funny territory without losing people, I suppose? So some of it's obviously what you've just said about acknowledging who's in the room and how they turn up. What other tools are there for building that bridge?
Well, I guess there's two things. There's the actually getting it across, the tools to get it across with the client, whoever's booking you, because they're going to feel confident that you can unboring it for them. And then there's the tools when you're actually in the room. So I'll talk about the tools with the client first. And I guess the thing that we say to people a lot is, or that I say to people a lot, is when everyone in a room laughs, for that moment they're on the same page. How often do you have your entire company on the same page? So if we can get them absorbing information and laughing, they're absorbing the information and they're getting it. That's huge. And then we come back to the, why do you have to do this? Why are you hosting an awards night? Why? Is it to make people feel good? Is it to recognize excellence? Is it to boost the local economy? Is it to inspire other businesses? Like, all those whys then have to be part of the delivery. Why are you having a Christmas party? Do you want to actually just have a good party? Great. That's, one thing. Do you actually want to share some of the results and some of the information? Do you want to get some messaging out there? Why are you having meetings? What are you doing? What's the purpose? Because then, then you want that to be effective. If you're like, oh, well, I want to have a whole, I need to do an address to everyone at the end of the year and tell them all of the figures of the year and move, so we can tell them what the direction is for next year. We're launching a strategic plan. Great. If you want to make that boring, no one will listen to you. They won't know what the strategy is and they won't buy into the vision, and your organization is less effective. Go for it. Have a boring launch. But if you want people to come along, buy into the message, understand what you're saying, and maybe even push back, but they've actually heard it, is that better? Then that's when we're talking to the client, that's where we come from. Why are you doing this? And sometimes we turn people away. With the person who asked me about the 15-minute video, I was like, well, you need to answer all these questions first. Otherwise, I'm just going to make you content that you're not going to use because you don't even know where you're distributing it yet. Why would you do that? Why would you give me your money? I don't want to work on that stuff. I want to work on stuff that's going to have impact, because that's where we get really excited. That's asking me to make a video for a whole lot of people where no one's going to watch it is like asking me to go perform on an empty stage where there's no one in the stadium and no one will ever know what I did. I don't care. That's not why I exist. It comes back to my purpose and my background and comedy and all of that stuff. And then when you're in the room, how do you, I think you were talking about what are the tools for unboring things? I mean, it comes down to a lot of genuine connection. Humor is based on truth. So I think as soon as we start pretending to be something we're not, famous Sharon has a saying, put yourself into your selfie, be the fame you want to see in the world. Imagine you're watching this presentation. What do you want to see? And then what do you need to say? Does your speech need to be half an hour? Can it be 5 minutes? What are you actually trying to get across? Can you say it differently? Can you say it visually? Can you say it with music? Can you say it with someone else saying it? Can you say it in a conversation? We had I'll use Famous Sharon because I perform her the most, so I'm the most involved in rolling out the custom content for her. With her at a conference, she had to, they had some award finalists and they wanted to profile them, but they were like, oh, it's just boring if they all say a bit about themselves. So she hosted like her own little Ellen show, brought them out on the couch, got them dancing, chatting, and she could play stupid, like asking them stupid questions. What does that word mean? What kind of sheep is that? It was a rural women's conference. And it was really fun and really funny. And so that, you know, that's a different format, but it's achieving the initial purpose that they wanted. That makes sense. For a university, we did orientation sessions, and part of one of the many goals, I have many goals with that. That was a big project. One of them was to make people feel like they're not alone, that they are capable, and often to have a sense of efficacy, a sense of capability, you have to almost acknowledge the fear that you do have and then push through it or fail through it or whatever. So we in the room start the facilitation, the presentation like it's a normal presentation for 10 or 15 seconds. Hi, my name is Bonnie. I'm going to be your host today. We're going to get you ready for da da da, and then over the speaker comes a ding ding ding. Hello students, this is a message for orientation, and it just starts sounding like a very formal introduction that tells them all of the things that they need to be thinking about. Have you enrolled? Have you got your parking permit? Da 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 da. And it starts getting more and more rushed and hectic, and then it goes. And meanwhile, there's 3 plants in the audience who are improvisers, who are just acting students. They're basically acting the emotions of the students that are in the audience, just going, what's the park? Where do I get oh my gosh, what am I doing? How do I, until they kind of have a freak out on stage. But it instantly puts the students into that moment of, oh no, and then, oh, it's okay. And, oh yeah, I can do this. You know, so we, like, rather than just saying, hey, you can do this, make them feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do all of that. That sounds like a lot. Oh, it's okay. I can get through this. You know, actually getting them to experience some of the messaging.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really powerful thing, isn't it? Being able to connect people to an experience of it rather than just a listening to or a watching of. It's when it kind of means you've got skin in the game, I guess, in a different sort of a way. I'm
it's
interested.
Suddenly more relevant.
Yeah, well, that's
like, oh no, I need to do those things.
Yeah, actually need to act on that. I'm interested in what you've been saying about purpose, Bonnie. I'm doing, as you know, a series of interviews at the moment for my new book, Unshakable, and it's one of the themes that's actually emerged from some of the interesting leaders that I've spoken to, including yourself, where people have said, look, you know, when things get shaky and there's little in the way of certainty and clarity and you're in a state of deep disruption, purpose is really significant. And it's not something you can just kind of invent on the spot. Takes a little bit of thought and work. And I reckon there's a few layers to it. So I've spoken to some individuals who go, look, I kind of know that having an individual purpose is a powerful thing, but I just can't get one. I'm not sure, you know, I really don't know. I need to work some more on that. So that's one layer, but I reckon if a team or an organisation has clarity, at least for whatever this is we're up to, it just helps to provide a real anchor in the midst of the washing machine that can happen around us. What are your thoughts on purpose, and how do you chain personal purpose and organisational purpose through the micro purpose of this job, that job?
So many purposes.
Yeah.
Well, I might, I'll come back to that question, but when you were talking about when COVID hits and when we're in chaos, a few years ago, because, you know, running a business and building it, especially if no one's really doing anything like that where you are living, can, in the same form anyway, there's people around me that I really look up to, but I was trying to fill a gap. So there wasn't anyone I could go, oh, that's how you do it. It's kind of taking bits from everyone. There's been a number of valleys of death where you would grow, and then we could die here, we could fail, we could not
Mm.
work. I was in the middle of one of those valleys, and I actually Googled, what if I'm a massive failure? Sometimes I just Google problems that I have just to see what comes up, because I feel like someone in the world probably had this. They had. And in that blog, they said, failure is bound to happen, and actually if you're trying to reach or grow, it will happen. And the most important thing is to hold on to your values. And I think your values are often a foundation for your purpose as well, or they guide how you reach your purpose. Because, you know, your purpose might be to make a lot of money, but the way you do that is based around your values and how you operate and how you approach life. And that was really grounding for me, because I thought, oh, well, even if I'm failing, if I just hang on to my values, then it doesn't break me. And it actually said in the blog, when you break your values, you kind of break yourself a bit. So that was really useful. And I think when COVID hit us, we really didn't know what was happening. Like, it was horrible. It was really horrible. And just, you know, having to let go of staff, all that stuff is really hard and not okay, because that's not the plan. But the way we did everything, we still, you know, I was really proud of my team. We all treated each other with respect. I think we still held on to all of our values. We still tried to do everything properly, you know, have things in writing or work things out, not just throw it all to the wind. Like, oh, well, let's just see what happens. And then that, I think, meant that we could come back and now re-find our purpose. And our purpose is the same, but, you know, the products and the day-to-day was quite different while we were pivoting. And now we've kind of got potentially more revenue streams to build, hopefully, into the future. But yeah, so purpose, I think, like, because I'm the company founder, a lot of it comes from my own heart or soul initially. And I think I've always had, I think part of the unboring stuff is like using what you have. And I've always felt like people love to hate what they have. It's like, well, we're here, you're living. One of my comedy shows was my first solo show, was why I love being not dead. That was the theme. Because a lot of people in comedy, you know, love to hate the world and, oh, I hate this guy, and they're angry at everything. And I was like, well, actually, I really like the world. I don't like everything in the world, but I was like, I mean, and I grew up with my childhood, my parents are youth workers. I knew a lot of people that were drug addicts. A lot of my friends and family were dead by the time I was 20. And they just wanted really simple, they were like, just wanted a family unit, just wanted someone to respect them, just wanted love. And so I think that's partly where when I see people around me that are really like unhappy with all these great things they have, they're like, oh, it's no, I need all these other things. I need to leave Perth. I need to do all these things. There was a comedian that did a set in Perth. He was an American comedian. He's like, you guys keep apologizing for Perth. Why do you keep apologizing? It's a great place. Oh my God. You wake up and you're like, oh no, another perfect day. Like, that was so good. I remember that so clearly, because I was like, yeah, we live in an amazing place. And we just love to talk about all the things we don't have. And I've always tried, I've just naturally seen opportunity. You know, if there's an empty venue, that's an opportunity to fill it. If there's, you know, if there's stuff not happening, there's an opportunity to make it happen rather than nothing happening. And WA, I think, has a really amazing independent culture, independent businesses, independent breweries, independent, you know, hospitality. You can walk down the street in Perth and not see franchises back to back, because we have a lot of independent stuff here. The independent theatre scene, independent comedy, like, we're actually very strong with independent stuff. And to be honest, that's more interesting, because if we all have a Tesco and we all have a Hungry Jack's, what are we living for anymore? People want unique experiences, and they want their life to be worthy of remembering. Do you know, like, I don't want to look back at my life and just see all the Netflix shows I watched.
Yeah.
I mean, I watch them again, don't get me wrong, but I want I want to remember the hilarious moments with my niece, like when
Mm.
she is 3 and she put the window down and said, "I like my music loud, Bobo." Is like one of my favorite moments with her. And that was only a few weeks ago. So my purpose is very much linked to unboring Perth, unboring, and then that's become unboring the world, but make the most of what we have and build something with it. I remember when I was a kid thinking, oh, I could watch all the movies or I could live them. I'd want to live those adventures. I don't want to just watch people doing it. I want to be in the shows, not in real TV shows, but, you know,
in
how
the
can
experiences.
how can I meet great people and fall in love and feel all those things that people are feeling on screen? I want to live that life. And so that, I think, I mean, that's me personally. And then in Gelo, we're not risk averse. We're quite, like, we're very open to new experiences and adventures and growth and also using what we have. And, you know, I think probably partly we're rearranging everything at the moment. And part of the rearranging is moving me out of some of the roles that gets to okay things, because I tend to just be like, let's do another thing. And that needs to be a little bit more healthy going forward. But that's fine. That's why we're rebuilding now. So yeah. But yeah, I think that the purpose is often linked to people, and we're all people running things. So when you feel like you're part of a bigger picture, it's a lot more exciting because there's a limit to how much we can achieve by ourselves. And that's why companies exist. That's why, you know, like if you could just imagine everything into being, why would you work with anyone? You wouldn't. It's like, I'll just make that happen with my mind, thanks. Don't need to sit through 18 meetings and 4 approval sessions. Like, let's just...
We're a little while off that yet, but that would be interesting, wouldn't it?
Oh, the AI is coming. The Matrix is here.
A whole other evolution of reality TV. Fred sits on an island and just imagines stuff.
It's kind of interesting to see what people imagined.
Yeah.
What do they want?
They could be scary as well.
Yeah, just tiny donkeys delivering donuts. Really? That's what you wanted this whole time? Okay. Sure.
I talk quite a bit about the survivor personality.
You just end the sentence there. Sorry.
I talk quite a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. About the survivor personality. It's an area of research in psychology that looks at people who effectively survive against the odds. And it spans a huge, I guess, diverse range of human experience, like, you know, medical diagnoses, businesses going bankrupt, relationships failing, being lost or stranded in the outback somewhere, being a prisoner of war, you know, pretty extreme pieces of the human experience. And one of the things that shows up over and over again in that research as a characteristic that helps people stack the deck in their favor is humor and connecting to the funny even when your back's to the wall and, you know, look as far as you can see to the horizon and probably beyond, things are pretty bleak. And that theme emerges over and over again. Have you got a take on why you think humour is so important to human resilience and perseverance?
Well, it's funny because I'm saying it's not bad. It's interesting that you say humour helps you, because I've always thought if I was like in a zombie movie, I would be gone in the first scene. Like, I wouldn't even get a speaking part. I'm out. Like, I'd get eaten. I don't know. I'd make a noise. I'd laugh or something, and then I'd be gone. So, like, just a background. Not even. I wouldn't make it on camera. Just be an extra. It dies. And but obviously, maybe I could survive with my humour and wit. I guess it's the connection thing, because, you know, to survive, you have to connect to other people, and humour, you can't fake the laughing. It is a connection. Like, when you laugh together, you're connecting, you're on the same page, you're understanding. My family we're giggle pods. My niece is a total clown, and I'm so proud of her. You know, she spent about 15 minutes the other day just showing me different ways she could run into the edge of the trampoline and fall over in different, like, funny positions. And I was like, good girl, yes, you are idiot. And I think that's probably it, because I think if you're going to survive, you need to be able to communicate. And if you can make someone laugh, you are understanding them on a certain level. You're understanding their sense of humour. You're understanding the context that you're both in. So you're understanding the bigger picture and where that humour sits. And then you're making a connection or a joke. And then that means you're, you know, funny or intelligent, or you've got some insights that they also can see. And I think humour, often you're picking out the truth that everyone can see that no one's said anything about. You know, oh yeah, I do always do that. You know, yeah, why do pajamas have pockets? You know, that Dimitri Martin joke. Dimitri Martin does a joke where he says, my pajamas have pockets, which is great because I used to hold things when I slept. I was like, yeah, no one leaves the house in these. What are we doing?
Oh, you haven't been to Midland.
Trackies.
There's lots of people who leave the house in their pajamas out this neck of the woods.
Respect.
Yep.
Active
Knee-high lace-up Ugg boots and pajamas. The height of fashion. Yeah.
Ugg boots, actually. I'm a big fan of Ugg boots. I need to get some.
Yeah, they're very good at this time of year, that's for sure. I'm interested in that connection with humour. So sometimes when your back's to the wall, the last thing you feel like is a laugh. And
are you kidding? It's like, that's where my brain, I mean, when you're in fight or flight, sure, you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But as soon as that bit's over, the first thing you want to do is laugh. You know, it's like when my grandma passed away, I've never laughed so much when the undertakers were coming together, because we were saying how grandma wouldn't like how we do, you know, oh, she'd love this, or she wouldn't like this, oh, we better fix this, okay, now grandma's happy. And it was kind of it would have seemed bleak if you weren't in our family, but because it was grandma, like we were paying our respects to her, but we were also like laughing because we needed to, because laughter releases tension. So I think when laughter releases tension, it just makes everything feel so much better. It's a bit like crying, you know, you have a really good laugh and you can feel the physical effects on your body. So, you know, I think often a lot of people haven't been through hugely traumatic cases or things. Like my friend's a paramedic, for example, and she says she makes jokes all the time. She's got jokes she rolls out that she knows, as you're attaching this thing, you make a joke about this, guaranteed hit rate. Like, you don't make jokes that aren't appropriate. But people are in this life or death situation, and then to have a moment where they feel a bit human or they have a giggle, it's actually a real relief, because they're going to spend 18 hours attached to all these machines. You know, I think it would be interesting to even study the medical profession in the emergency rooms and how many jokes actually get made. Not inappropriate, but a way of connecting with someone, making them feel better and kind of taking their mind off the situation. Not like you do it if you
there's certainly bits about
prognosis, but there's times and places.
Yes.
You know, but
there's certainly pieces about medical teams and military teams and the humour in them, in that survivor personality work. And one of the points that they make, and I think it's a really valid one, is that humour allows us to look obliquely at things that if we just tackled them head on would be quite probably completely overwhelming. Whereas you know, we kind of sneak around it a little bit with humour and gradually ease our way into it in a way that's not quite so confronting. Certainly pretty special.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a paramedic situation, you don't want to be like, you might not be here in an hour. Yeah,
that's right. So
we're just going to attach this, and then, you know, but you're doing the important work, but then you might make a joke about the thing attaching and how you're feeling. Like, you know, you could keep this afterwards. I don't know what jokes they use, but yeah.
Indeed. Bonnie, thanks very much. It's been a interesting and wide-ranging conversation. If people want to find more about you or Famous Sharon or the Gelo company, where would they go looking if they want a hand to unboring something?
They would go to gelo.com.au or just Google. Famous Sharon, 2 R's, one of them silent. You can check her out. She's around everywhere. she's the kind of person you don't realize you've seen everywhere until you see her, and then you can't unsee her. So just decide if you want to Google her before you do, because then you'll start seeing her everywhere. Yeah, they're probably the two best places.
Great. Thanks very much for joining us. It's been very, very entertaining, totally unboring, and some great insights into life, business, leadership, and purpose, among other things. Thanks very much, Bonnie Davies.
No worries. Thanks for having me.